What a great day for the zoo! Hey guys, Kingpin here. Welcome to the next episode of Franchise Mode. Normally now's the part where I'd give a quick recap over the past few episodes, but a surprise from the Aquatic Pack has actually come into the zoo. Check this out. Ember, a gold-rated baby seal. I was actually about to record this intro like 2 minutes ago, but the seal is about to give birth, so I decided we'd react to it live first. Check out how cute she is, bouncing around. Guests are going to be able to get a great view of her. Hopefully she can go underwater soon, but this viewing platform is nice too. Matter of fact, we should probably make sure this is baby safe. Yeah, it looks like there's 3 areas that the seal can escape from. That wouldn't be good for our reputation, so we should probably patch that up. All better. Now you can't hurt yourself in your brand new exhibit. I'm not really sure what we should call this exhibit though. We have Penguin Cove, we have our Arctic Fox Barn, but this has really not been named yet. It's a pretty cool exhibit though, probably my favorite one in the zoo so far. Big fan of the pier aspect of it. The seals seem to enjoy it too. I'm not sure what you guys think of this idea, but pretty soon, as in the next probably 2 or 3 episodes, I'm thinking about doing an episode where I completely polish up everything in the zoo, add a bunch of new details, and things like that. Now we can actually start the recap of the series so far. Starting out, you'll go to the right side of the zoo. You'll have Penguin Cove, which we're not going to tour yet since that was the very first episode and we've toured it in every subsequent episode. Right after that, you're going to find our Arctic Fox enclosure, and then if you continue straight past that, that's where the gray seals were, including baby Ember. After that, we're considering expanding the Arctic Fox enclosure really soon. Not positive where yet, but it might be in that little grassy area behind it. I also added these little roads that lead directly into the raccoon enclosure to ease traffic in the zoo to make them less stressed. And apparently it's working because guests think tickets are underpriced. Let's change that a little bit. Never be afraid to raise the prices in Planet Zoo. Simple supply and demand. If your zoo's worth it, guests are going to pay for it. But, if you caught it in the intro, we actually expanded the raccoon enclosure a fair bit. We only had enough room for 3 of them in here, and I figured raccoons, despite being solitary, aren't necessarily the most exciting animals, so we'll compensate for that by having a lot more of them in the exhibit. Now we can fit about 7 of them in here. The new area isn't really accessible to the average guest. It's along a staff path, but I figured it might add a little bit of scenery for our staff. I figured they'd like it. I modeled it just after a small pond. Hopefully the raccoons appreciate it just as much as the staff do. I even added a nice staff sign that I found in the workshop. Today we're going to be working right beside the raccoon enclosure though, right over here. Today we're going to be adding another carnivore to the zoo, the Timberwolf. Down at the bottom of this enclosure where that little ring is, I'm going to add a den that guests can walk through with one-way glass. In the bottom right corner there's going to be a pond of sorts, and in the middle there's going to be a little bit of high ground for the wolves to get a good view of their territory. Pretty simple exhibit, a lot of trees and plants though. It's going to be cool. One of the things that I'm not a big fan of in this zoo so far is the lack of elevation. We have a little bit of low ground in our gray seal enclosure because you can go underwater and see them, and then obviously we have a big staircase in Penguin Cove, but the zoo itself doesn't really have a whole lot of elevation naturally, so we're going to change that in our wolf exhibit. They're going to have some high ground, they're going to have some low ground, they're going to have a pond, and the most important part of this exhibit is going to be their cave. We're going to smooth everything out though, so it's not going to be like a rocky mountain type area, just a little valley for them to call home. The reason I usually make everything soil when I'm making a habitat like this is because it makes it a lot easier to visualize exactly what you're working with. It makes it look a little bit more like a construction site instead of something you just happen to be building. Right now we're using one-way glass, and we really haven't talked about one-way glass a whole lot on the channel since it's pretty expensive and our zoo has just now started to turn a pretty sizable profit. But some cons of one-way glass are that in the early game, it is pretty expensive, and it doesn't necessarily look great if you don't add to it, but some pros of one-way glass are it keeps animals' stress levels way down, It looks really modern, which if you remember is one of the themes of this zoo, along with animals being mostly aquatic and eco-friendly. And one-way glass is just interesting because it allows guests to get a lot closer to the animals than the animals would typically allow otherwise. Another thing that I've noticed with my zoos, and if you don't know, I try to keep my zoos fairly realistic. Actually, not fairly realistic. I try to keep them as realistic as possible. But, having gone to a few zoos semi-recently, one thing that I've noticed is that typically zoos with dangerous animals in the enclosures will have 2 fences instead of just 1. This makes a lot of sense to me, because you're not just going to let kids, and even some dumber and less intelligent adults, put their hands through a chain link fence with a Timberwolf on the other side. No, you're going to have 2 fences, one to stop the animals from getting to the guest, and one to stop the guest from getting to the animals. It's simple common sense. It also stops lawsuits from happening, which is the main reason why they do it, and it saves the animals too. It's a win-win for the zoos. So, we're going to employ that tactic in this exhibit. We don't want the wolves to be able to get the guest, and we don't want the guest to be able to get the wolves. So, we're going to simply just add 2 fences. I uploaded them both to the workshop a long time ago. They're actually probably the first things I ever uploaded to the workshop. I made these fences probably a week or 2 into the game. They were the first time I really tried to make something outside of the regular barriers. Aside from the custom barriers that I made, we're using a little section of the pre-built wooden one. It's okay, it's not my favorite, but it serves its purpose for being next to the staff gate, and it doesn't look too fancy, so I kind of like it that way. It's really niche and I don't typically use it, but sometimes it can look okay and fit a role. Then we're just connecting that to null barriers that go across the ones that we custom got from the workshop, and then connecting those null barriers to the one-way glass. It's a really simple exhibit layout. You can see the wolves from the den, and then they'll have 3 or 4 viewing areas from the custom barriers that we made a long time ago. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it, and we'll fill in the gaps with some rocks later. One common glitch that I keep seeing, and I'm not sure if anybody else is experiencing the same thing on console, is when you place blocks right on top of each other, even if they're directly lined up, it'll be a little bit glitchy on top. So what I found is that you can sometimes either cover it up completely with a different material, or do what I'm doing now and stagger the block. It gives it a little bit more of a rustic effect, and I kind of like it. Get creative. If you're ever using custom blueprints or something that's just a little bit weird to get exactly correct, use rocks and other foliage, or even natural terrain like the push feature, to just kind of mask the edges of the barriers. It really makes it look natural, like it blends into a rock formation that's already there. I like the effect a lot, and with these wolves being so rock-centric since they're going to have a giant den as kind of the centerpiece of their exhibit, it fits in really nicely. Making a cave can be a really daunting task in this game, especially since you don't really know the right scale to make it with. But the best way that I've found to do it is use the pull feature to get the ground going up, and then use the flatten to terrain feature to go across the path, because it's not going to leap onto the path like other features will. If you flatten to terrain, it'll give the path ample space to allow the guest there. After that, just use the pull feature some more to get the sides up, and then smooth it all together using the smooth terrain tool. It's really easy. After that, just line the entire thing with rocks, and then when it's completely done, just get rid of the rocks. And then you'll have the path, but no actual land up there. In summary, we're pretty much just making a fake area of land, covering it completely in rocks, and then deleting the land using the flatten the terrain feature, but instead using it on the path. That way, the terrain that's above will be completely gone, but the rocks will stay. It's pretty much just the outline of where you're going to place the rocks, and you can easily get rid of it later. The easiest way to go about actually placing the rocks is to start on the bottom layer. Use a big rock with random rotation on. This is just temperate rock 1. Always have your angle rotation at 0% too, so you can get fine little angles. You don't want 15, 30, 22.5, or even 45 degrees, because that's too aggressive of a turn. You want this to look as natural as possible, since that's the effect we're going for. If you're trying to make a fake looking cave, do something a little bit more standard and robotic like that. But for this, we're going for as realistic as possible. We want this pulled right out of nature. After you do the first layer, go up a little bit more and have these rocks on top of the first layer, but a little bit more outward. This way, it'll start to make an arch. You want the arch because that's really what a cave is, or at least a den for wolves. It's just a small area that they've burrowed out. After you have your basic shape done, with at least 2 layers of rocks, that's plenty tall for guest, you can then use the flatten to terrain feature and get rid of the roof with the terrain that we don't need anymore. After that, you can take some flat rocks and line the area of the exhibit where the terrain used to be, and now just fill that in. It's really that easy. The last step you need to do, just for some added realism, you don't necessarily have to do this, is add little supports where the cave looks like it might cave in real life. You don't have to worry about gravity in this game, luckily. That would be a nightmare for all the free building rain we have. But at the entrance of the cave, maybe in the middle if there's a large section with no walls holding it up, just add little support structures. This is a good place for your education sign to hide a speaker, to make a little wall with a sign on it that says what the exhibit is. You can get creative with these little pillars. Also, don't be afraid to add little paths that jut off too. I kind of like the idea right here, and for example, of building off here, and I can make a different exhibit out this way. This might be a big animal, it might be a small animal, it could be a food court, it could be a restroom, it could be a staff area. Who knows? But the less dead ends in a zoo, the better, because if you do have an area and you can come back here later, you can make the zoo all the better for it. I like to build in the realistic style. I think I make that pretty clear. But let me know in the comments what style you guys like to build in. Do you do a little bit of abstract? Do you do realistic as well? Do you like to build in a more cartoony fashion? What is it? There's lots of different styles, and there's infinite ways you can be creative in this game and express yourselves. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. Let me know in the comments below. Another thing I'd like to hear your opinion on is if you think the channel's going in the right direction. I'm really happy with it personally, and the videos are doing really well as of late, but I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. Any advice, any opinions, any criticism, I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. We have a pretty interactive comment section per the amount of views we get. I'm really happy with it. If you've never commented before and watch all the videos, feel free to go down there. Everyone's really friendly. Nobody's going to be mean to you, I promise. If you have habitat inspiration or you need some, leave it in the comments. Maybe somebody will help you. I'll try to respond to as many people as I can, but other people can respond just as much, because I'm not the best at this game. Since we're putting so much effort into this exhibit, and giving the guests such a good view, we should probably give our viewers some education on it as well. Timberwolves, also known as gray wolves, are a type of canine, and they're found in various habitats throughout North America, Eurasia, and even parts of the Middle East. They're the largest wild members of the Candidae family. Adult Timberwolves typically weigh between 60 and 120 pounds, and measure around 4 to 6.5 feet in length from nose to the tip of their tail. They have an extremely dense fur coat that can vary in colors from gray to very dark shades of black, with even lighter shades on their undersides. Timberwolves are highly social animals, and live in packs consisting of a dominant breeding pair, an alpha male and an alpha female, and their offspring. Pack sizes can range from a few individuals to over a dozen, depending on factors like prey availability and habitat loss. Wolves are known for their complex vocalizations, including howls, growls, whines, and barks. These vocalizations play a crucial role in maintaining pack cohesion, establishing territory, and coordinating hunts on prey. Timberwolves are apex predators and primarily hunt large prey such as deer, moose, and elk. They're also opportunistic feeders and may consume smaller prey like rabbits and rodents when given the opportunity if there's no large prey around. Opportunistic pretty much just means they'll take an opportunity if given to them. They're not going to pass up an easy meal. Timberwolves are extremely territorial animals, and they mark their territory with a varying amount of scents. These territory boundaries help to prevent conflicts with neighboring packs and provide a defined area for hunting and raising offspring. Wolves have several physical and behavioral adaptations that enable them to thrive in diverse environments. These include a very keen sense of smell, excellent hearing and sight, as well as very powerful jaws and teeth for hunting and consuming prey. Wolves are predators, there's no beating around the bush. They have every single tool a good predator needs to be successful in the wild. While timber wolves once ranged all across much of North America and Eurasia, they have faced significant habitat loss and persecution by humans. Conservation efforts, including reintroduction programs and habitat protection, have helped stabilize some populations, but they still face threats from habitat loss, hunting, and other conflicts of humans today. Despite this, they're least concerned species as of right now, and they're thriving in the locations that we haven't bothered yet. Timberwolves have long been featured in folklore and mythology in North America exclusively, and arts in various cultures from around the world. They're often portrayed as symbols of wilderness, strength, and loyalty, but can also be seen as villainous in times, especially in American fairy tales. As apex predators, timberwolves play a crucial role in maintaining the balance of ecosystems by controlling prey population and influencing the behavior of other species. Their presence alone can have cascading effects on the entire ecosystem, from shaping vegetation patterns to impacting the distribution of other prey wildlife species. They control the population of species, which in turn controls the population of plants, which in turn gives us more oxygen to breathe. In the wild, timberwolves typically live for 6 to 8 years, although some individuals have been known to live even into their early teens. In captivity, they can usually live longer, with the oldest reaching up to 15 years or even more. The most interesting fact about timberwolves, in my opinion, is the pack dynamic. Within a wolf pack, each member has a very specific role or rank. The alpha pair usually leads the pack, making decisions about hunting, territory, and other activities. Alright, the exhibit's pretty close to being done. We have a few other details I'm going to add off screen, but this is Timberwolf Cave. I'm a big fan of how this sign turned out at front, and I really like the adult and baby wolf. We have a little bit more to do with plants around the side of this cave. It looks a little bit barren so far, but I'm a big fan of how the interior base turned out. I used these rocks to cover up the area of the glass where the barrier is, and you can see the wolves very clearly through here. We added some trash cans, some education. We're just going to have to spice it up a little bit off camera, because this episode's getting a little bit long to do another time-lapse. Over here you can see the wolves' pond. We don't have power over here yet either. We added some trash cans just so the guests don't litter, but this area is extremely unfinished so far. The guests have a very good area to view the wolves from all 4 directions of this exhibit though. I'm really happy with how the interior turned out too. We have a lot of different plants over here, and if our Arctic foxes would not be stressed for 10 minutes, we could actually show them off. Probably a mistake building that exhibit so close to the center. We're gonna have to change that eventually, but who knows. Overall, I'm really happy with this exhibit, and I hope you guys are too. Sorry for the shorter episode, I've been really busy lately. I had to get a video off, but I hope it was just as high quality as usual, despite being a few minutes shorter. In the next episode, we're probably going to tackle the other side of the zoo and start over there, because traffic is getting a little bit hectic. Either that, or we'll continue on with this. Not sure yet. I'll send out a community poll. I like being community driven on this channel. Keeps you guys engaged and me happy. It's a win-win, and it avoids writer's block too. Anyways, I think that's going to be all for today's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I know I did. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. I'm really happy with how the channel's going, and all the feedback I'm getting in the comments. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. Kingpin out. See you soon.